Hello, my name's Tom Carhill. It's the 14th of January 2014. I'm going to try and make a quick video in my ALPonz theme, but this is actually a general video about the Delphi technique. It was applied in the, well, I'm going to use the word creditors committee because that's what it was called, but it was not a creditors committee. And they did not allow people in there who said they weren't creditors, by the way, because I made it very clear that I wasn't a creditor and I was allowed in there. So what they called the general creditors meeting, for those of you who aren't familiar with ALPonz, this was a particular section about Aston Lloyd, the Aston Lloyd Ponzi scheme, called Aston Lloyd and Partners International Limited. Now this was a subsidiary in a Ponzi scheme. Now if they switch all the money around, you can't have a subsidiary. You can't just close one part of it down. Complete criminality, completely illegal. Lots of bent solicitors, lawyers, accountants, and insolvency professionals involved. Lots of people trying to get my videos banned, and people taking legal actions against me at the minute. All of which are going exceedingly well. But obviously, it's going to be an onslaught, and it's going to be non-stop because there's going to be a lot of people going to prison. And of course, the hidden hand of you know what? If you know what that means, you know who's involved. They know who's involved. Actually, the low-level ones probably don't even know what that means. But they know that they're in big trouble anyway. So it's all good news. But anyway, getting back to how ALPonz and the Delphi technique link together. And this is also particularly used to people who put money into the Ukraine land and the Tropa investments, because they're going to try and put them into insolvency separately, or they have put one of them into insolvency, haven't they? And then what they're going to do is they're going to say that we've got these, they'll put it into voluntary liquidation, so they'll actually, the criminals will get some other criminal mates to administer the Ponzi scheme. So you should be watching out for this in any of those meetings, right? It's called the Delphi technique. Now the way it works in a group meeting is you have a diamond formation. If you were looking down at the meeting like a square, like probably it's in a square room, isn't it? You've got to have a diamond, so you'll have one person at the front, two people behind on the sides, and one person behind there. Or you can have a few more in there, but it has to work with a diamond. It's basically a minimum of 4. Now that minimum of 4 people can dominate a meeting of a much larger amount, like into the hundreds. But of course they can have more. But if you understand the diamond, I'll explain how it works. What will happen is the person at the front and the people standing behind or sitting behind him, whenever one of the people further back, let's say the person at the very back talks, these people will whip round and they'll look with intent interest at the person behind, like as though they're in total agreement. They'll wait until a person keeps talking. And of course, the people at the front who are running the meeting, if they're in on the con, which obviously they are, because they're the ones who've got the plants in this instance, because it could be a general meeting that wasn't set up rigged, but of course this one is rigged, and they're plants. Now, in the event of the general creditors meeting in 2010, these people were all claiming to be lawyers who are insolvency professionals and insolvency experts. When you actually went up and asked them, I asked them all, and they obviously were. But they were very reluctant to say who their clients were. In fact, if you kept saying, well, why aren't you going to tell me what's the problem? Do you want to take my details and pass them on? Because there's no reason why they would want to keep, there's very few people who'd want to keep their interests, that secret. And why would you send a lawyer down to a creditors meeting to just sit there and really do nothing apart from say, bloody good job to the administrators? They're not really getting their money's worth, and also agree to loads of things that are illegal that would be massively for their clients' interests. So anyway, this is the tactic. You get these people, they're plants, and every time the one at the back talks, or one of the people at the back talks, the one at the front will literally turn round, he'll put his whole body round, and he'll be intently listening to them. And you see, in this way, and then he'll put his hand up like, I want to speak, oh yes, good. And the other ones will turn around and they'll all agree with it, and they give the impression with other people, because people have crowd mentality, other people will then turn round, mirroring them, thinking, well, this must be important because that guy stood up. We were sitting down, now he stood up and glaring, and he's just, he seems to be very interested, glaring, gazing. And that's how it works. So the Aston Lloyd Ponzi scheme employs the Delphi technique. If you want to do a bit of background reading into it, it's DELPHI technique, and it was started by that Rand Corporation, and it's used very widely now. Lots of these modern day brainwashing tactics and mind control tactics are used by these Ponzi scheme operators, including NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and there's lots of different types of that. But the Delphi technique, just don't worry yourself too much about neuro-linguistic programming. Well, do, but it's a very wide subject area. You know, I could speak about that for 6 weeks. There'd probably be another 6 weeks and another 6 weeks that I've missed, and obviously I wouldn't even know how to talk about it for a day. But there are lots and lots of ways of using neuro-linguistic programming. It's a vast science at the minute, and it's a true science. It may be a manipulative, unpleasant, satanic type science, but it is a science nonetheless. You know, you can affect change in people's minds using it. Right. So, if you go to a meeting and there's people who are saying I represent people, especially, and they're bolting their heads around, showing intent interest when someone says something which is actually incredibly suspect, or if you don't know if it's suspect or not, they're just bolting around, making a big gesture of doing it. They're using the Delphi technique most likely, and they're using it to control you. So what you should do is you should target those individuals and say, you're using the Delphi technique. You're turning round your plants, and you name them as plants. I should have done it when I was at the Aston Lloyd one. I didn't, because there was just such resistance to people even saying things like asking basic questions that it was kind of a bit of a waste of time. If I bought that's what I should have done. Bought a camera and just taken pictures of them. That you know, this is the kind of thing would be a good idea to do. Also, RE10 made great attempts to say, oh, no one's allowed to record, all this bollocks. What I would do is I'd go right up to the front and I'd bring a hidden recorder with you, or put your phone, or do a test, find some kind of hidden recorder you can use that you can record them with. You know, it's not James Bond, it's not that difficult. You can buy them for hardly any money. So that's what I'd recommend doing. I'm not going to be in England for the next little while, I don't think, so I'm not going to be able to go to that meeting if it hasn't already been. But I should have thought of this before. I should have made this video before. I'd made a note to make it, but I didn't make it, so sorry about that. You know, I let the side down a little bit, but seeing as nobody else is doing anything of any worth anyway, hardly, an iron tipped spear, without a doubt, I think, you know, you can possibly let me off. Okay, thanks for listening. If you've got any comments, or you need to ask any questions, because I haven't quite explained it properly, you will find a lot of outcomes on the internet. So, but make comments. The more the better. Be as critical as you like. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. What the fuck? Stop.